there's a lot going on right now. There's a drone strike out there that was meant to hit cartel members, and it sparked a war of words inside the GOP. But JD Vance is praising it as a decisive action, while Rand Paul is blasting it as lawless. So is this feud really about one strike, or is it just exposing a much deeper split inside the Republican Party over how America should actually use its military power, Rebeka?
I think it's both. I certainly think that it's highlighting this disagreement that we've seen emerge within the GOP, especially in the last few months when it comes to foreign policy. You'll have one sect of the GOP that tends to be more libertarian, also tends to be a bit more dovish when it comes to these sorts of things. And then you have the other side that is a bit bolder when it comes to foreign policy or military action. They're more willing to take that step, as we saw last week when they struck that boat with those alleged Venezuelan cartel members. I believe it was about a dozen of them. And so this, I think, is just another example of this division. I think the most prominent example up until now really was Israel. This is kind of similar arguments kind of being reapplied in another military intervention, if you will. This is just the latest of many, I'm sure.
So I want to go back just to the origin story of this, because I think it was a fantastic moment in the public prints, which are now called X on Twitter. You have this moment where, if you show that full screen of the post that started all of this, where Vance says killing cartel members who poison our fellow citizens is the highest and best use of our military. I mean, so he leans into the action saying, no, actually, this is how the military should be used. This is actually its highest and best use right now. These people are trying to destroy America from a foreign government, right? And then Rand Paul's response is, I think, astounded a lot of people because he just mocks JD Vance for saying, "I don't give a shit what you call it," when Vance comes after him and says this is, a war crime, basically, whatever. And so he's mocking Vance's response to Paul. And Vance, when he says, "I don't give a shit," on Twitter, I mean, that inspired a bunch of memes. And to me, that's the spirit of 2025. Like, that's the new right, saying, I don't care what you call it. I don't care if you say it's this and that. I don't think that that's what it is. And the real gist of it, the spirit of it is, I do not care about these names, these memes, these tropes anymore. And so Rand's response, right, is to come in and say, talking about Kill a Mockingbird and, do you ever read To Kill a Mockingbird, which he was roundly mocked for? Did he ever wonder what would happen if the accused were immediately executed without trial representation? Just say a little bit how you conceive of this, Rebeka, because this exchange was telling. I think it was a telling moment for the spirit of this year.
I think the most telling moment of it all is the fact that our lawmakers are spending their Saturday nights tweeting obscenities at each other. I mean, beyond that, it's the infamous "Did you even read To Kill a Mockingbird" tweet. And so that was, again, memed, like you said. But I think the point that Paul is trying to make, that Senator Paul is trying to make, is the fact that there was no due process for these terrorists. That's his argument anyways. He takes issue with the fact that these drug cartel members were not actually formally tried before they were, killed on a boat in the ocean somewhere. And so I think that's where he really takes issue, which of course a lot of people on the right tend to side with Vance. They're like, okay, well, why do these people need due process if they're poisoning our citizens, if they're a threat to our country? Since when do foreign nationals get a due process in this context? And so actually a source close to the vice president reached out, and they kind of had a response to this now infamous tweet from Senator Paul. And they basically said that they called him a hypocrite. They pointed to the fact that in 2015, he defended certain drone strikes that a former president, Barack Obama, had had done in Afghanistan, I believe it was. And it actually killed 3 American citizens. And so Rand Paul is on the record kind of defending some aspects that are comparable, some military actions that were taken in the past under a Democratic president that are comparable. And so there was definitely some choice words had for the senator. These conflicts are not uncommon between the two. And so when I reached back out to the senator for another comment, he kind of reiterated similar points that he made, that there's more nuance to this whole thing. One thing that I think is interesting that he pointed to is that he believes that the strike actually violated sort of these long-standing rules of engagement that the Coast Guard has, which is that you should not be using lethal force unless it is in self-defense or Yeah, I believe it was just in self-defense. And he doesn't believe that that applied. So again, it's getting kind of legalistic. I'm not a lawyer, and so I'm not one to take sides here, but it's certainly an interesting interaction, to say the least. And again, it's pointing to these divides that we've seen emerge within the party over these last couple of months when it comes to foreign policy.
It's giving the I don't really care Margaret vibes back all over again. Let's go ahead and turn our eyes to John Thune, because the Democrats nuked the Senate rules years ago. John Thune is now about to use these weapons right back at them. So take us through what's happening right now with Thune and everything that's going on with Trump nominees.
Yeah, so there are hundreds of nominees that are currently in the backlog that are still waiting to get confirmed. And the reason that the pace is not as quick as the Trump administration and his allies on the Hill would like it to be is because Democrats have taken this unprecedented approach, which is they have not allowed for a single confirmation to be done under unanimous consent or a voice vote, which is the first time it's ever happened. This is, again, unprecedented. And so what Republicans, including Leader Thune, decided to do was to take an existing precedent that Democrats themselves established just a couple years ago to actually work through this backlog. There's about 600 nominees, and so I mean it's really an uphill battle. But what this precedent will allow them to do, this rule change, means that they will be able to vote and confirm multiple nominees at a time, as opposed to just having to tediously confirm each one individually. And so the idea is that it's going to actually expedite a lot of these confirmations so that the administration can actually staff the bureaucracy and begin to more effectively implement the MAGA mandate that they were overwhelmingly elected to put through in November.
So two questions there. I mean, one, is this is actually happening? I mean, is he going to use the precedent? Is he going to press the nuclear button? And if so, does that signal that, you know, the Democrats' effort to blow up Senate norms in the past has already backfired, and now everyone's going to use this option moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible that it's going to backfire. The pendulum always swings one way or the other, but the point is that right now they are using the tools that they have available to them to actually overcome this unprecedented obstruction that Democrats have been putting up. And so, again, just to point out just how unprecedented this is, never in another previous administration has there been any party that has refused to have votes based on unanimous consent or a voice vote. These aren't, controversial nominees. It's not another Pete Hegseth or another Tulsi Gabbard where you're going to see the votes come down to partisan lines. These are nominees that eventually get confirmed nearly unanimously. And so, again, this isn't even contentious in the partisan sense. It's purely just to inconvenience the administration, and it ends up actually hurting the American people in the long run.
Yeah, so you said there's about 600 of these positions that we're still waiting on. We're still waiting just to fill out the administration that took office back in January. I understand this takes a while, but it does seem like this is just DC at its finest, when you know that this is going to be something that eventually does go through, and this will happen. So what is the actual motive here for the Democrats, knowing that this is going to be done, but eventually they're going to have to address this?
It's just pettiness. It's pure love of the game. I mean, they're just digging their heels in every turn that they can. It's pretty characteristic of the party, at least when it comes to President Trump. A lot of his allies, they'll call it Trump derangement syndrome. I think that's a fair characterization in this case because, again, these aren't particularly controversial nominees. These are oftentimes they're passed nearly unanimously. And so it's just another example of Democrats trying to obstruct any attempt of the administration to actually benefit the American people just for the sake of obstructing whatever efforts the president has. It has nothing to do with the actual policy or the person themselves. It's purely ideological.
I mean, I kind of feel like there's a logic here that applies also to the cartels, being blown up. When you have an unprecedented situation, you're going to get an unprecedented response. And when they've already thrown out this as a weapon, it makes sense the Republicans pick it up and do it. But this is something that the clock is ticking on, because I think a lot of people in the audience, they want to see this happen now. They think it's ridiculous that there's all these people who haven't been confirmed, and we have really important work to do, and this is getting in the way of the people's business. I would guess that there's going to be a lot of support for just taking care of business here. Is there any reticence, you think, on the part of the Republicans at this point, or are they ready to move forward?
I think they're ready to move forward. I think a tweet that I saw actually this morning from a White House official was encouraging one of Trump's nominees, EJ Antony, to actually get confirmed sooner than later because in recent weeks, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they have been in the news because they have had some faulty jobs reports numbers. They keep revising their figures, and people are kind of tired about these estimates that are inaccurate. And EJ Antony at the head, he would really clean things up. And so this is a good example. It's one of many examples where actually confirming the nominee would lead to a more productive and effective bureaucracy, which the American people frankly deserve at this point.